history. Stuttgart is a bit of a secret, a city that brings the surrounding countryside home with it. It is fall, and the season is all around us. It is a city that this week has its best face on, all dressed up for the world to come visiting, and thus it has. It's a city whose best-known asset is seen on streets the world around. It is the home to Mercedes-Benz. But for tonight, it is the home to the very best in the world of another art form who will ply their trade for Stuttgarters and for the rest of the world. ESPN, the Total Sports Network, presents the 25th World Championships of Gymnastics. Tonight, the men's team competition. Hello, everybody. I'm Barry Tompkins, and welcome to the World Championships here in Stuttgart, West Germany. Tonight, the optional competition in the men's team event. And with me for expert commentary, what better expert than Olympic gold medalist Bart Connor? And Bart, I guess you have to begin and maybe end with the Soviets. They have been simply awesome so far.
They are so strong, and they certainly set the pace for the rest of the world in international men's gymnastics. Their leaders in the competition currently are Chimov, who won the Olympic Games last year, Korobczynski, who's the current European champion, and third on their team is Mogilny, who's a two-time former world champion. So they're very strong, but I don't expect, even though they have a huge lead of 4.35, I don't expect that they'll slack off because they really like to set the pace for the rest of the world, and we're going to see a terrific show from them.
This, of course, the first major event since the Olympic Games in Seoul, so we have to talk about the Americans. They're already through with their competition. What can we look for?
Well, for the U.S. team, they're currently tied for second place. But technically, what happens with this session with the best 6 teams in the world, the U.S. will probably drop to a tie for 8th, which certainly is an improvement on their 11th place finish in Seoul. It's still a young team for the U.S. Only Kevin Davis and Lance Rignold are returning from the Olympic Games in Seoul. The U.S. team did very well until the last 2 events. High bar and floor exercise, they had a lot of trouble, but I think things are looking much better for the U.S. team. Of course, we're not happy until we see the U.S. team in the medal contention again, but 8th place is certainly better than 11th place.
And we'll be seeing them all night long on videotape. Well, I am surrounded by Olympic medalists tonight. With me here, Kathy Johnson. And Kathy, let's talk about the battle for second place, and that may be the most interesting battle of the night.
Well, the toughest competition is certainly going to be for second place. East Germany, who won the silver medal in Seoul, is in second place right now, but they have to compete without their 2 top gymnasts, Olga Baron, who won a gold medal in Seoul, and also Mike Bella. Just behind them by .05 is China, and they were 4th in the Olympics, so they're really looking to move up here.
Who else can we look for tonight?
Well, right behind China, only 4/10 behind, is Japan, and they won the bronze medal in Seoul, and so you know they want to try and capture that back.
You know, a lot of times we talk about these programs and we say we might be seeing some of the best performers in the world. The simple fact is tonight we're going to be seeing all of the best performers in the world. More than a 3-ring circus, this is a 6-ring circus.
The 1989 World Gymnastics Championships are being brought to you by Certainteed Fiberglass Insulation, at home in America's smartest homes. By Burger King. If you want to give people what they want, sometimes you've got to break the rules. And by New Michelob Dry. One taste and you'll drink it dry.
Schleierhalle here in Stuttgart. These, of course, the World Championships of Gymnastics. We have already completed the compulsory round of the team competition. Let's take a look at the results after the compulsories, and they, of course, count 50% of the total score. Soviet Union comfortably in first place, but there's plenty of competition behind them. East Germany right now is in second place ahead of China, Japan number 4, and Hungary number 5, and then it is Romania, Italy, the United States, West Germany, Bulgaria, and Cuba, rounding out the first 11 teams. But 50% of the score, of course, of tonight's competition goes into the final count. Bart, let's talk a little bit about what the judges are going to be looking for.
Well, this competition is actually called Competition 1B, which is the team final competition. And, of course, one of the most difficult things to understand about the sport of gymnastics is the judging. So the best way to look at it is by breaking it down a little bit. In this competition, there's difficulty, execution, and combination requirements that the judges are looking for. The difficulty is worth 4.0. That's the A, B, C, D moves. The execution, of course, is the form and the technique. The combination is worth 1.0. The combination is specific requirements for each particular piece of event. That adds up to 9.4, and then there's 0.6 of a point remaining for risk, originality, and virtuosity. And we'll talk about those as we go on, because those are the little things the judges are looking for to build the score to a perfect 10.
I don't think there's any question we're going to see a lot of risk, and we're going to see an awful lot of virtuosity. The teams that we're going to be watching tonight are the 6 best in the world. The United States, having finished 8th in the compulsories, as we mentioned, has already completed its competition. We are going to show you as we go along exactly how the Americans did in the competition. And now we move to the final 6 teams. And on parallel bars, this is the team from Hungary, and the competitor that we're looking at is Zoltán Supola. And we're very early in this competition. We've already seen some remarkable scores.
Boy, he opened with a nice press to a handstand on one bar and completed 2 Healy twirls back-to-back. He has a good look. Nice, clean form. There's an interesting move. It's called a D move, one of the more difficult elements being done. He did a drop peach below the bars and a straddle cut around to an L. Wow, nice combination for a dismount, and that's exactly what we're talking about in terms of originality, Barry.
And
that was a beautiful
beginning. Only the beginning. And he had a little trouble in this event, actually, in the compulsory competition. He only wound up with a 9-2.
Right here, he does a Diamond-off all the way around to the single bar, continues through with a flyaway double back across the other bar. That is great stuff. One of the things, of course, the judges are looking for in the parallel bar event is underbar work, overbar work, as we've seen here. This is a swinging C element through underneath the bars, of course, that fulfills the requirement of a commensurate dismount, as well as one of the underbar values.
And now we wait for his score, and as we do, we watch Valentin Mogilny. The Soviet Union in floor exercise. We, of course, will pass the score on for Supola at his score, a 9-6. The competitor we were just watching on parallel bars. Competition here, we should tell you, moves very quickly. We'll keep up with it as best we can.
So far, every one of the Soviet gymnasts has opened with a perfect laid-out double back mount. Excellent form, and without question, Mogilny has the style that really sets him apart from the other gymnasts. He's had a major problem in these important international competitions because he's had problem with consistency.
He's really one of the most beautiful gymnasts that I've ever seen. A perfect toe point. Look how straight the legs are. And the amplitude on every skill.
Now, do you think he gets some of his style and his execution from his wife, Olga Bichirova, who, of course, was the 1981 world champion?
I'm sure she adds her expertise in training.
As a matter of fact, he did not perform too well in a recent meet, and she was right on him right now, and she was the one that said, basically, straighten your act out.
Well, she would have liked that routine there. Very clean, good form. There's no question that Soviets try to out-execute the other athletes. They have all the difficulty, all the elements of style and combination that are required. But one thing that they really concentrate on is the line and the execution and perfect technique. And I think it's the little things that make the differences at this level. And watch the position in this layout double back. Absolutely perfect in the air.
The thing that strikes me, too, Bart and Kathy, is that every day they're seeing the best competition in the world just in practice.
There's no question that that really builds a very strong team. Just to get the attention of your coach, you have to look awesome every day in the gym.
Valentin Mogilny, we will wait for his score. In the meanwhile, we will move over to the high bar, and the competitor on high bar, Adrian Sandu. Adrian from Romania.
Here's his release combination, a reverse hex to a Ginger, in a little close. Boy, more and more you're seeing the gymnasts do these combination of release elements. A few years ago, you could compete at a very high international level with one big release move. But now the gymnasts are doing 2 and many of them 3 release moves back to back to back.
Mogilny on floor exercise 9-7 a moment ago.
He really fights to stick that landing. That's a double twisting double back. And his coach there, Dan Grecu, was a Olympic bronze medalist on the still rings a number of years ago and has done a great job with the Romanian program.
Adrian Sandu, and here's another look.
There's the reverse hex. Now he's going to do the Ginger, back flip with a half twist. You can see he's in a little close and has to break form. But he continues through into giant swing. Once again, there's the reverse hex over the bar. sets up nicely, but you can see he's in a little close. Does a good job at maintaining the rhythm of the exercise, although he did have to break form. On the dismount, this is the best part of the exercise. 2 flips and 2 twists, even pointing his toes in the air. But he does have to fight to stick that landing.
9.55 for Adrian Chandu. These are the World Championships. We're in Stuttgart. I'm Barry Tompkins, Bart Connor and Kathy Johnson, back with a lot more after this. We are back in Stuttgart on the high bar now. Marius German, perhaps the best of all of Romanian men.
Here he's setting up for his release. There it is, a Gaylord, a little too far out. That move, of course, invented by my teammate, Mitch Gaylord. He first performed that 6 or 7 years ago. He did it in the tucked position. German here is trying it in the straddle position, a little more difficult. But you can see he's just a little pulled over the bar, right out on the end of his fingertips. Another inch in closer, and he would have made it easily.
Now, what will that cost?
Well, there's no question it'll be 0.5 of a point for the complete break in the exercise. Then he'll have to continue the exercise from that point. And this is not a good idea to just pull over and stop. The judges would rather see you just blast back into the routine. It looks as if he's somewhat disgusted with his performance, and so he doesn't have the same aggressive attitude that he showed earlier, but what a mount. Once he got back on the exercise, from a one-arm giant swing, he did a full twisting ginger, which is one of the most difficult release moves being done. It's too bad he hasn't made this whole routine together, because this is big-time stuff.
And what a finish. Little
Double
step
twisting,
back.
double back.
Bart, let's talk about the judging criteria in floor exercise.
Now, Barry, in the men's floor exercise competition, the judges are looking for 3 specific combination requirements. The first is 3 different acrobatic connections, and those are the tumbling runs, and of course it has to have at least 1 C element, and I'll explain that as we go on. The second requirement is a strength part of at least B value, and that is usually a press to a handstand. Most gymnasts fulfill the requirement by doing some kind of press. And 1 static element on 1 leg or 1 hand, and that usually is an arabesque or a scale that gymnasts use before they finish their last tumbling run.
Meanwhile, we move over to Vladimir Artemov. One of the best.
Oops. Out of bounds. Artemov, of course, won the all-around gold medal at the Seoul Olympics. Had a little trouble on his mount there. He used the layout double back that all of the Soviets are using here. Over-rotated, took a step. But once again, much like Mogilny, where Artemov gets his points, is his flexibility, as you can see there, his style. It's a very graceful performer.
Most of the Soviet male gymnasts actually have ballet training from early on in their careers. It really helps in this event.
The strategy in world-class gymnastics is somewhat controversial because many gymnasts are chasing the big trick. They're always looking for the one big trick. But the Soviets, where they beat you, is with the excellent style and technique. They do the big tricks, but they have perfect form and perfect execution, as Artemov shows.
So just a little problem at the beginning. Last score on the high bar of Marius German, 9-3. So that fall hurt him dearly.
You can see this layout double back once again. He has excellent form. Beautiful position in the air. It's so difficult to maintain that kind of form. Had a little more power than he had planned on. And of course, the deduction is 1/10 of a point for taking a step, and then another 1/10 of a point because that step happened to be out of bounds.
A look at the scorer's table here, and another look at Artemov.
This is his dismount here, tucked double back. He usually does this better than that. He opened up a little early. Seemed like because he over-rotated the first tumbling run, he was perhaps holding it back a little bit in the second tumbling run. And in that case, he undercompensated.
You really have to respect him. He had such a big year last year, winning the Olympic Games, and not letting down, coming back for a World Championship less than a year later.
9-6-0 for Artemov. Vladimir Artemov, and remember he had that 1 step out of bounds, and that is what cost him. Other than
That's
that,
a
though, pretty
shaky
good
start
routine.
for him. Yeah, it was a good routine, but 9-6 on the Soviet team, and certainly a 9-6 if you're hoping to win the all-around title here, and Artemov is the favorite. He'd like to do much better than that. Of course, this is the team competition, and the Soviets have such a huge lead that that certainly won't hurt him.
Igor Korobczynski.
And watch this mount. A laid-out, full twisting double back with the full in the second flip. The same mount we saw Artemov use, but he added a twist.
One of the most impressive mounts that will be done here at this competition.
And once again, as you mentioned, Kathy, it's the form and clean line. Nice position in the handstand.
What's really great about the Soviet team is the depth. During the compulsory competition, the lowest score they counted was a 9.65.
Oh, I'm sorry, but that was an incredible third run. That was an Arabian 1 3/4 flip. He straddled the first flip and laid out the second flip, as if to show the other athletes that I can do it in any position that you'd like to see. And a laid out double back dismount. Wow, that guy is going to be the favorite to win the title in floor exercise. It looked effortless for him.
Igor Korovchinsky of the Soviet Union already followed a pretty strong act, as we mentioned. Mogilny a 9.7, Marinich 9.75, and Belenki 9.7.
This is that third tumbling run. He starts with a side flip, straddled, and then lays out the front flip. Boy, that is amazing. I've never seen it done like that. And at dismount, you see a lot of the gymnasts use a tuck double back, some a full twisting double back, but very few can do a laid out double back.
It's amazing the way he combines his artistic quality with this difficult tumbling.
For Igor Korovchinsky, a score of 9.85, the highest of a group of very high scorers amongst the Soviets. So they sort of pick up here right where they left off after the compulsories. Well, we mentioned that the United States is not in this final round of 6 because they finished out in 8th place. They are, however, were locked in a battle with Bulgaria and Italy to try to move up if they could. Let's go back and see how the Americans fared on the parallel bars. First of all, the first man up on the bars here, Kevin Davis, Bart.
Yes, and Kevin, of course, former NCAA champion on the parallel bars, has a really good style on parallel bars. Used a move early called a makuts and finished with a very nice, clean tuck double back. His score was a 9.7 for that event.
This is Lance Ringnauld.
Lance opens with a great move. He jumps right into a flange, stays out on the end of the bars with a peach straddle cut, giant on the end. This is good original work, and one of the things the judges are looking for. Front 1 1/4. What I like about this routine is it moves very quickly. There's a lot of tricks. He continues to blast through the routine, back toss, Diamondov. Never really breaks the rhythm. It's always right on every handstand, and a very big pike double back. Stuck that landing.
He was a happy man. 9.7 was Lance Ringnald's score. That was also the score for Kevin Davis, also at 9.7. So this was a very good discipline for the Americans. Meanwhile, as we watch the competition now live here in Stuttgart, the top 6 teams competing. And let's take a look at the standings. Right as of the moment, the Soviet Union, of course, continuing to lead. They are in first place now after the first event here, and they had a very good first event. They will now move on. It just seems to be the Soviet Union with a comfortable lead. Hilbrandt of East Germany on the rings.
The East German team has traditionally been a very powerful team. Very strong in there. It's called an inverted iron cross. And a front giant right to another inverted iron cross. So far, he's done only about 5 tricks in the routine, and 3 of them are iron cross positions, showing a tremendous amount of strength. Notice how his arms are perfectly locked out in the handstand position. This is something very impressive to the judges. Boy, this routine, although it isn't packed with difficulty, it is very, very clean.
Stuck the landing pretty well, too. Jens Milbrandt of East Germany.
If you take a look at the results from the compulsory competition, you really see that the East Germans lack the depth that the Soviets do. The top 3 guys scored in the 58s, and the bottom 3 in the 56s.
Ma Jing on vault from China.
And that is great to see, and I'm glad we got an opportunity to see it here at the World Championships. That's the Yurchenko vault, of course, that was invented by Natalia Yurchenko. That's one of the first done in the World Championship for the men.
Meanwhile, we move now to Yukio Iketani on parallel bars of Japan. And we again will tell you this competition moves very quickly. We will try to keep you up to date on scores. We will try to keep you up to date on competitors as best we can.
Ikitani is a very good-looking gymnast. He has nice style, and he was a terrific competitor in the Olympics last year in Seoul, helping the Japanese team to the third-place finish, and a big surprise bronze medal finish for the Japanese team.
He was 8th at the Olympics last year, but he's only 24th after the compulsories in this competition, so he's having a tough time.
And this is the new set of compulsories, and you know, some gymnasts adapt to the new set of compulsories sooner than others, and obviously it's been difficult for Yukio.
Milbrandt's score a moment ago on rings, 9.65 and 9.8 on that vault you saw by Ma Zheng a moment ago, too. So 9.65 for the East German and 9.8 for the Chinese Ma Zheng on vault. Now we move back to the rings competition, and this is Silvio Kroll.
Now this is Jörg Behrens. Jörg got a 9.65 in his compulsory routine. Showed a couple of good strength moves there. In fact, 3 terrific strength moves. A Maltese through to an L cross and a pull up to an L. And again, an inverted cross. Once again, the East German's showing a tremendous amount of strength. Another inverted cross. He's done like 5 strength moves in this routine.
What's interesting, I don't know if you can see in the background, but they have up on the board that 8:46 Silvio Kroll is going. And in fact, that is not Silvio Kroll.
Well, there you are.
So it's still there.
I don't know if he went out of turn or...
Yeah, because Kroll is next up. I see him chalking up.
Bart, let's talk about what the judges are looking for specifically in the pommel horse competition.
Now, in the pommel horse competition, the judges are looking for single leg work or at least 2 scissors in any optional combination. They're also looking for at least 1 element on 1 pommel, a very complex 1 pommel element. And the third thing they're looking for is at least 1 element of at least B value on each section of the horse.
And this is Valentin Mogilny, who we saw a moment ago.
This is one of his best events. He is spectacular here.
In fact, he won this event at the World Championships in 1985. That year, he also won the parallel bars. His routine is stocked with difficulty. And as you'll notice, and certainly as Kathy has mentioned, notice the tremendous body line, toe point, and elevation above the horse throughout the exercise. Tremendous 1 pommel work. Notice he stays on the 1 pommel through pommel loops, back moors. Travels across the horse without using the pommels. Those are the flares, of course. He travels back across the horse doing the flares, spindling. All of these moves sound reasonably complicated, and the terminology is probably more difficult than doing it.
Couldn't prove that by me. It looks very difficult.
Boy, this is really an outrageous exercise. Every trick you can possibly do and done perfectly.
Got to score very highly, I would say.
You know, your typical routine takes about 35 seconds. That seemed like it took like about a minute.
I was
because
just getting ready to say, it's so much longer than all the other routines. It's stocked full of difficulty.
Let's take another look at it. Talk us through this, Bart.
Well, these are the flared positions. And you'll notice his legs are going counterclockwise. He turns his upper body clockwise back against the direction. So he's not using the pommels. He travels back across the horse. Notice he reaches across the pommels. Takes a tremendous amount of elevation to keep your body moving over the pommels, because they're about 5 inches off the leather. So his hips are very high. His legs are perfectly extended.
And a perfect 10.
There's no question that that routine deserves a 10, and if they could give it more, they should give it more.
Yeah, that was about a 12, I think. Wow. Well, there's the moment of the meet so far.
We talked about the changing in the rules. Judges are making it more difficult to score perfect 10s. Well, this is the master of the pommel horse, and under any kind of rules, the guy should get a 10.
And did, so well scored. Igor Korobchinsky, who we saw with the top score on the floor exercise a couple of moments ago. And he does pretty well in this event also, 9-9 in the compulsory competition.
He also has a very nice body line. Did a lot of traveling across the horse, showing good body position, a lot of difficulty. travels to the end in flared position and up to a handstand and pirouettes off. It's a very clean exercise, but not quite the difficulty that we saw from Mogilny, but one that'll score very well because, as we mentioned earlier, the Soviets will kill you with their technique.
What a tough act to follow, though. Mogilny with a 10 a moment ago. There he is. And now we look at Korobczynski, and we will wait for Korobczynski's score here.
These are single leg work, or scissors. He picks up into flared circles. Notice he's going to travel across there, one pommel down to the end. He loops around, all the time showing perfect form, excellent rhythm throughout the exercise. Cranks that dismount up through a handstand and pirouettes off.
9-9-5. Under any other circumstances but these, you would say what a wonderful routine it was, and it was, but second best. Just a tremendous performance by the two Soviets, Mogilny and Korobczynski. A 10 and a 9-9-5 on pommel horse. Can it get any better? We'll find out when we come back. And we are back in Stuttgart. Bart, what are the judges looking for as far as scoring criteria in the rings competition?
Now, in the rings competition, the judges are looking for 2 different handstands of at least a B value. One has to be executed with a swing, and one executed with strength. One extra static strength part of at least a B value, and then one optional strength part as well. So there is an emphasis on the strength elements, and that's new.
Andreas Becker of East Germany now on the rings. A few moments ago we saw Berendt of East Germany. His score was 9-8, so the East Germans doing very well in this discipline.
Once again, notice the perfectly locked out arms. Inverted iron cross. Front giant to an inverted iron cross. And presses out of it. The East Germans are so powerful. Look at there's a Maltese cross. And then another cross. Once again, 4 strength moves early in the routine. The judges have been requiring more and more strength out of the gymnasts, and the East Germans are more than doing the necessary required strength moves.
Becker in 9-8-5 in this event. Missed it a little bit.
Double twisting, double back, the most difficult dismount. Hard to say, too. Not only being done right now, but he over-rotated a little bit.
So we will see, as you started to say, a 9-8-5 in the compulsory portion of this competition.
The East Germans have done well so far on rings. They have 2 9-8s, a 9-6-5, and a 9-4 that they'll probably be able to drop.
Here's the dismount. A lot of speed over the top. He's going to do a tucked double back flip with 2 twists. He makes it easily, almost a little too easily, and over-rotate. A big step like that will be about 0.2 of a point deduction.
So once again, these are the World Championships. You are just seeing simply the best performances in every discipline of gymnastics. And a 9-8 was the score that time for Andreas Becker to go with the 9-8-5 that he had. And as Kathy Johnson mentioned, his teammates doing very well here too. Silvio Cole, 9-8. Jörg Berendt, who you saw a little while ago, a 9-8. And now it is Sven Tiplet.
Sven had a great Olympics in Seoul. He got a bronze on the parallel bars. He got a bronze on this event, the still rings. He's not as big and strong as a lot of the other East German guys, but wait till you see his routine. He's so powerful, it's deceiving. Back kick through a cross, iron cross, pull out. There's an inverted cross. Front giant to another inverted cross. Once again, 4 big strength moves early in the routine. The rings are absolutely still. This will be impressive to the judges. Hit it. Really nice routine. Great front giant swing work as well as strength work.
You know, one other thing we should mention, too, remember there are 6 members of each team, but only the top 5 scores are what really count. So a good score here by Tippold is important because one of the competitors, Enrico Ambros, only had a 9-4.
only a 9-4.
Yeah, I say that.
He does a great job here when he does this piked move there. Is double front within the ring. Was invented by a Japanese gymnast named Yamawaki, and he uses a similar element for a dismount. Half in, pike back out, and a nice landing.
So we will wait for the score of Sven Tippout. And his score at 9-9. So a very good team score for the East Germans in this particular discipline. Meanwhile, Li Jing of China in competition taped just a little while ago in this same rotation in the vault.
Li Jing came to this country, to the United States, a couple years ago to compete internationally, and when he came back this year, he brought that vault with him. That's the Yurchenko vault in the laid-out position. He used it in the American Cup competition this year, and that is really exciting to see the men taking from the women this style of vaulting. Notice it's a round off onto the board, a back handspring onto the horse, a laid-out back with a full twist. He's way out of frame and lands it easily.
Well, that was good for a 9-8. He liked it very much, and with good reason. Looks to be in a little bit of pain, too.
A tough vault.
Still a very close competition between East Germany and China. They were only 0.05 of a point ahead at the beginning, and now they've comparable events, these last two events.
This is Wang Chosheng, also of China.
Handspring laid out front with a half, a little trouble on the landing, but great position in the air.
So for Wang Chongsheng, another look.
And a very high scoring event for the Chinese team. 9-8s, 3 9-8s, and 2 9-7s. They're so powerful, and they look so good in the air. Vaulting is one of the most difficult events recently to get big scores on. Hasn't been a problem for the Chinese.
A 9-8 for Wang Chosheng. So a pair of 9-8s in the vault competition for the Chinese, and the Chinese continue to be in second place behind the Soviet Union. How did the Americans do on rings? Well, not too bad, thank you very much, but it was going to be a little bit of a case of too late. As we said, the Americans went earlier. They did not finish in the top 6 in the compulsory competition. And we take a look at Conrad Bursinger dismount.
With a very big dismount, a double twisting double back with perfect form. A good job for Conrad.
Mike Racanelli.
Mike also opened up with a very difficult strength combination. Back kip around to an L cross. Showing terrific swing work forward. That's a cast. Back upright handstand and a straight arm front giant swing. Drop kip to an L cross. Racanelli did a terrific job there as well. His score was a 9.75.
And finally, Tim Ryan.
Tim finished with a very big laid-out double back. One short hop, but the best score for the Americans.
And he finished with a 9-8. For the Americans, remember we said they were in a cut competition with Bulgaria and Italy just to try to move up. Remember, this is a team that finished in 11th place in the team competition in the Olympic Games in Seoul. A whole lot more to come from Stuttgart, and we'll be back right after this. Well, Stuttgart is the state capital of Baden-Württemberg, and it's the home to over 600,000 West Germans, a city that is rich in tradition and very proud of its heritage. It is a future-oriented city, to be sure. Meanwhile, on the rings competition, the Soviet Union team, and you are looking right now at Vladimir Novikov.
Novikov had a little trouble in the floor exercise competition, unusual for the Soviets. He was trying a very difficult mount, went out of bounds, and took a big step. He's showing excellent swing work here on still rings. There's that move, the Yamawaki in the piked position. He's swinging a little bit.
I think they make Yamawakis here, too.
And he finishes with a great double front with a half. I'm not even going to acknowledge that. I know our terminology sounds pretty silly to you, Bear.
Vladimir Novikov. We will have his score in just a moment. And meanwhile, on the vault competition, this is Andreas Becker. We saw him just a few minutes ago on the rings. He had a 9.8 on the ring.
Having a terrific all-around competition. He was 7th after the compulsory, tied with Lee Chung-yang. There's a good-looking vault. It's a Sukahara full in the laid-out position. One huge step on the landing, but the vault was very square and very clean. Showed excellent technique. A lot of the gymnasts do what they call a kasamatsu, which looks very similar to this. This is a Sukahara full. It's a round off, and then he has to twist back the opposite direction in the laid-out position. Very good-looking vault. Unfortunately, the steps on the landing will be at least 2, maybe 3/10 of a point deduction.
Bring you up to date on Vladimir Novikov, who we saw a moment ago on the rings, 9.75, continuing the fine tradition of the Soviet gymnasts here in Stuttgart. And now it is Igor Korobchinsky, and we have seen him a couple of times already. Most impressive.
For such a young man, he really is having a terrific competition. Shows great line, excellent swing work. That iron cross position wasn't quite held long enough. He met the position, but I think the judges would like to see a complete mastery of the strength elements, and it looked to me like he bailed out of it a little too quickly. Big dismount, though, a laid-out double back with a full twist.
And we will tell you that Andreas Becker in the vault a moment ago, 9.7, and now we await the score of Igor Korobchinsky of the Soviet Union. Back to the vault. And this is Sven Tippelt.
I think he just did the vault of his life. That was a handspring front with a 1.5 twist, and he totally nailed it.
He loved it. Here's another look.
Notice he's going to do a handspring on, tucked front, and then crank 1.5 twists. He finishes it easily, and his feet don't move. That's going to score well.
Just nailed that one.
It's really amazing to see him year after year finish right up there on the top with the top Soviets, the best in the world.
And meanwhile, on the parallel bars, this is Lee Chung-yang.
9.8 in his compulsory parallel bar routine. And you'll notice what he's doing right there. He's putting some chalk on the bars after he has wet the bars a little bit with a damp rag. The combination of the water and the carbonate of magnesia, or the chalk, makes it sticky and allows him to do some of the underbar work that we're going to see him do.
Korobchinsky a moment ago, the Soviet Union on the rings, 9.75. We are still awaiting Tippelt's score in the vault. And you're watching Lee Chung-yang of China on the parallel bars. 3-ring circus? No, this is a 6-ring circus.
He opens with a glide back straddle. Now here's some of the underbar work. There's a giant half turn. Straight arm peach to handstand. Front uprise, piked front 1 and 3. Look at the extension in the handstand.
Bart, is that the first time that that's been done in pike position?
I've never seen it in pike position. We saw Gutsogi do it in the Olympic Games in the tuck position. Wow, what a clean exercise, and very nice tuck double back for this one.
Witnessing one great performance after another. A lot of support here for the Chinese team. 9.9, incidentally, for Tippelt in the vault. And I think we're going to see a good score here, too.
Again, they're battling out for second place. China had moved ahead by 0.2 of a point after the second event.
It's amazing he kept such good form on that front 1 3/4. Excellent toe point and clean leg form throughout that very, very difficult trick. It's like Greg Louganis there for a second.
China and East Germany, as Kathy Johnson mentioned, really locked in a battle right now for second place. Soviet Union well in front in this team competition. Scores still remain very fragmented, so it's a little bit hard to keep you up to date on the team scores from moment to moment. 9.75 was the score for Lee Chung-yang on parallel bars.
But even though the Soviets have such a lead, there's actually a competition within a competition going on. Only 3 per country can make it into the top 36. And in order for the Soviets to get in, They have to beat out some of their tough teammates. All of the gymnasts are in the top 10.
Valentin Mogilny, who has already done a very good floor exercise, and a 10 on pommel horse on the rings.
He opens with a strength move, a back roll around to an iron cross. Look at the extension in his leg. Beautiful line, every position just right. Perfect toe point. It'll be interesting to see how Mogilny holds up in this competition, because he's had a lot of problems with consistency. Although he's one of the best-looking gymnasts in the world, he's made a lot of major mistakes in important competitions.
So Mogilny's routine, and we will jump off the track for just a moment from here in Stuttgart. When we come back, we'll let you know how Valentin Mogilny did on the rings. Tight competition here. This is the all-around team competition, and we'll be back with more right after this.
Olympian Brandy Johnson leads a determined team of gymnasts in the most important international competition of the year. See the compulsories of the World Gymnastics Championships Wednesday night on ESPN.
Well, Valentin Mogilny, a 9-8 to the Soviet Union in the rings. He is having an outstanding competition here tonight. 9-8 on the rings, a 10 on the pommel horse, 9-7 in floor exercise. And he talked about the fact, Bart, that he has been an on-again, off-again performer. Well, he is on again tonight. Meanwhile, on the high bar, we are looking at Toshihiro Sato of Japan.
We talked with Sato earlier, and we asked him about his favorite food, and he said Japanese food. We asked him about his favorite music. He said Japanese music. He's a team player all the way.
Absolutely, a home guy.
Showed a good combination there of release moves. Nice. Jam to a handstand. Those are inverted giant swings. Here comes his dismount, a laid out, full out. Oh, over rotate a little bit. Looked pretty good in the air. Just pulled his feet through a little bit too far.
Toshihiro Sato will await his score, and we will pass that on to you just as soon as we get it.
There's the inverted giant swing position, hop pirouette. Now notice he picks up a tremendous amount of speed here as he gets ready for the dismount. It's going to be 2 flips and 1 twist. Everything's fine. He just pulls it just a little too far through. That will be about 0.3 of a point deduction for that problem on the landing.
Japanese right now finding themselves behind the Soviet Union, behind East Germany, and behind China. Really in a battle with Hungary and Romania. 9-7 was the score for Toshihiro Sato. And you have an idea it was the dismount that really cost him.
Yep, that's it right there. 0.3 of a point. The rest of the exercise was very clean.
Sato and the Japanese team. How have the Japanese been doing in general in competition lately?
Well, you know, the Japanese dominated men's gymnastics for nearly 20 years, up until about 1979, and the Soviets took over and have never looked back. But in Seoul, of course, the Japanese took the bronze medal in a surprise competition there, and have seemed to be on the way back.
Meanwhile, we'll get a parallel bars, and Li Jing about to mount the parallel bars. Chinese team is loaded with Lees. Li Chengyang, Li Gi, Li Gay, is it?
Li Ge.
Li Ga. I was wrong in both occasions, wasn't I? And Li Jing. And this is Li Jing.
As I mentioned earlier, we saw him in the American Cup this year. He brought that vault, the Yurchenko vault, with a full. We saw him perform that in the American Cup, one of the first international performers to ever attempt that vault. And of course, he used it here just moments ago, and it's very exciting to see the men making that transition and adding some new vaults to the repertoire. He opens here with a glide back straddle cut. Oh, there's a great move. 2 giants in the row. The first one through to a Diamondov position, or a full turn. Once again, I mentioned earlier that the judges are requiring the gymnasts to do more under bar work. And he showed that right from the beginning. Wow, this routine is amazing. 2 Healy twirls right through to a front 1 3/4. This routine has everything. Underbar work, it has the upper bar work. Perfect position. Wow, 1 hop on the landing. Otherwise, I thought we had a 10.
So we will wait with you for Li Jing's score.
Look how casual he is. He's just walking off like, yeah, just another T-bar routine.
He was the same way after the vault, and he had a very good score on the vault, too.
There's the Healy twirl right through to a front 1 3/4, lands on his upper arms, and without even breaking rhythm, continues the exercise with an underbar glide kick.
You know, we are seeing some very high scores here tonight in the men's competition, and I find it interesting because you've said on numerous occasions after the Olympic Games, they really sort of changed the rules a little bit and made it more difficult to score high.
They do make it more difficult, especially in the event finals where the judges are requiring higher level of difficulty. In the team competition, as we're seeing here, the difficulty requirements aren't as stringent as we'll see in the finals. But needless to say, the gymnasts are packing the routines with difficulty because that's the best way to get the attention of the judges, is with a lot of big tricks.
Li Jing, a 9-8. Meanwhile, Jord Barron on the vault a little bit earlier.
There's a handspring front with a half in a laid out position. Small step on the landing. Very powerful vault.
And a 9-8 for Jord Barron of East Germany. East Germany's doing rather well here early in this competition. Meanwhile, Silvio Kroll.
This is a great vault. Handspring front with a half in the laid out position. You can see why he was a former world and Olympic champion in the vault competition. It's very difficult to maintain good, clean form. And what power and height. And of course, the judges are impressed by his height as well as his distance from the horse.
And because of the terrific vault competition, they have now moved ahead of the Chinese.
9-9 the score for Silvio Kroll. So the East Germans having a very good vault discipline, and in fact, a very good team competition so far here. They sit right now in second place behind the Soviet Union, and they have put a little distance between themselves and China, their closest competitors. Meanwhile, Wang Chungjing on parallel bars.
He opened with a peach to a handstand. Oh, there's a great move. It's a giant to a double back within the bars. Once again, showing terrific underbar work that the judges are stressing. There's another giant swing, this time with a half turn. Boy, he really keeps good body line throughout those. Oh, a little trouble on that back toss. That giant threw to the double back within the parallel bars was a great original skill, and certainly will fill the requirements of originality that the judges are looking for as well.
A little bit of a step back for Wang Chengsheng. He wound up with a 9.75 on parallel bars for his team. Well, the Soviet Union continues to lead the competition here, and they are virtually assured of a team victory. East Germany is in second place ahead of China right now. How did the United States do? Well, we mentioned that they competed earlier in the previous rotation, and they were locked in a battle with Bulgaria and with Italy. Didn't turn out quite so well for the United States, but when you go back and take a look at some of the individual performances, you have to say it was quite good.
Well, they had some wild routines on high bar. Conrad Vorsanger used a terrific move there, a toe on to a front recatch, but had a little problem with his grip. And then Kevin Davis came up, and the same thing. He did a combination of release elements and had a problem there as well.
9-2 for Vorsanger, 9-3 for Davis. That did cost the United States.
But then Tim Ryan came up and really nailed a terrific dismount there. That's a full twisting, laid out double back.
And there are some of the members of the women's team. Randy Johnson, who we will be seeing on a later broadcast. Meanwhile, Lance Ringgold on a high bar.
Lance really finished things off well for the U.S. team. His routine is always packed with difficulty. He uses a one-arm giant swing there. Well, here comes the big part. 3 release moves in a row. Reverse heck, Ginger. Perfect form, excellent rhythm. Lance then continued through with a jam to inverted giant swings, hop, full pirouette. And his dismount was a double twisting, double layout, and only one little step.
So on the high bar for the men, a little bit of good, a little bit of not so good. But this was a lot of the good. 9-8 for Lance Ringnahl to the cheers of some of his teammates. Meanwhile, in the competition here, Soviet Union having things its own way. East Germany is second ahead of China. Japan sits in fourth place ahead of Hungary. More to come from Stuttgart and the World Championships after this. Chinese team now. Wang Changsheng on the high bar just a moment ago came off the bar and landed. It's really hard to tell it. I don't know if we'll be able to tell even from this replay, but in any case, it looks like a dislocated elbow or broken arm. I don't know. I hate to really judge exactly what happened.
Well, he was doing a one-armed ginger right there, and probably a good thing we actually couldn't see when he made contact with the floor, because he landed heavy on his right arm, of course, and at that point you're falling from about 12 feet in the air. So if you don't land just right, you can do some damage, no question.
Being tended to and in considerable pain, and certainly Wang Changsheng will not be available to the Chinese team for the remainder of this competition. What that means in terms of the team is that they will just have to go with the 5 competitors that they have left.
And all scores count. They can't drop a weak score.
Very painful injury. Meanwhile, let's take a look at the team standings as they are right now. The Soviet Union continues to lead with East Germany in second place, China in third place, but we'll see what this injury to Wang Changsheng does to affect their team performance. Then Japan, Hungary, and Romania. And right now the battle seems to be between East Germany and China. Meanwhile, Li Ge.
Right, Li Ge does 2 terrific release moves, a reverse heck with his legs together, and then he continued through to a ginger. It's a very powerful routine. Aggressive style, very quick with his giant swings. Here's the dismount. A very pretty laid out double back.
Excellent performance by Li Ge of China. A few minutes ago, Valery Belenki of the Soviet Union, a 9-9 on the vault. Vitaly Marinic, a 9-8 on the vault. And Vladimir Novikov, a 9-7 on the vault. As we move to the parallel bars and the East German team, and this is Andreas Becker. Becker having a very good competition here. 9-9 on the pommel horse, 9-8 on the rings, 9-7 on the vault.
And once again, he's showing very exciting underbar work. 4 moves in a row, all giant swing or peach elements. All of those, of course, underbar elements. There's a Diamidov with an extra quarter turn to a glide on the side. Great exercise so far.
I will tell you, Li Ge on high bars, 9-5-5.
Perfect pike double back dismount for Becker. Adding to his other events today, he's having a really terrific all-around competition and certainly doing a lot for the East German team.
Back to the high bar, and Ma Zheng.
He opens with a Stalder. Here comes the Gaylord in the pike position, right up to a front Stalder. Of course, that move was invented by Mitch Gaylord. Mitch did it tucked. He just did it in the pike position. There's a Delchev, invented by Bulgarian Delchev. His routine is packed with tricks named after other guys. Maybe he's tried to invent his own trick.
There's something about a trick called a Ma that doesn't have a ring to it.
Oh, Ma! Double twisting, double dismount. Boy, that routine is great.
Excellent
The Chinese
routine.
certainly needed that after the injury to Wang Chongsheng.
Who incidentally just left the facilities being tended to, and we will try to get you a report, although it is difficult to get some information. Here is a look right now at Wang Chongsheng, and he is in some pain, needless to say.
Here's the replay of the Gaylord in the pike position at the front, 1 3/4 over the bar. He caught it perfectly.
And we jump now, and I mean jump being the key word there, to Sylvia Kroll. Kroll, I beg your pardon.
Kroll has a very nice style on the parallel bars. He's always completely extended. Stutz Diamidov. Back toss right to the top and a tuck double back. East Germans continuing to pour it on the parallel bar.
Good look here at Hans Martin Schleier Halle. Let's take another look at Kroll's dismount on P-bars.
From the very nice extended handstand position, there's a back toss right to the top. He continues through in a tuck double back. No problem.
So the East Germans having a very fine competition here as they came off the compulsories in third place, but have done extremely well. And right now they sit in second place. So when we come back, we'll bring you up to date on exactly what's happening. We'll let you know what Silvio Kroll did on parallel bars, and still an awful lot more competition to go here. These are the finals in the team competition at the World Championships. We're in Stuttgart, and we'll be back. With Bart Connor and Kathy Johnson, these are the World Championships. We're watching the team competition. Before we went away to commercial, we saw Silvio Kroll on parallel bars. His score, 9-8. East Germans doing very, very well.
East Germans scored much higher so far on the parallel bars than the Chinese on the high bar, so we're flip-flopping back and forth between these two teams.
And remember, Wang Chongsheng of China has left with an injury. It appears to be his arm or his elbow. We don't really know which, but we do know that he will not be back in the competition, so they will have to make do with just the 5 competitors that they have on the floor right now. Back to the parallel bars, Sven Tippold, who is also having an excellent competition.
And Sven has one of the most unique parallel bar routines in the world. I'm glad we're having an opportunity to see it here because he opens with a peach handstand, giant full turn, giant half turn out to the end, works his way back into the middle with an underbar swing through to a Tkachev. Very quick Healy spin. Taking a long time in this handstand, setting up that Stutz. Now watch, he'll work his way back out to the end and then dismount with a double front. A really original routine. He worked from one end all the way to the other end.
Sven Tippold of East Germany. Happy guy. Speaking of happy guys, we were watching Igor Korobchinsky of the Soviet Union. We saw him in floor. We saw him on the pommel horse. We talked about the fact that Kroll and Tippold have had very good competitions here. As we take another look at a portion of Tippold's routine on the parallel bars, let me tell you, Korobchinsky just had a 9-9 in vault. That to go with a 9-8-5 in floor and a 9-9-5 on pommel horse. And his low point was on rings at 9-7-5. Not bad for a world championship.
Not bad, and certainly proves the fact that he deserved his championship this year in the European Championships over some of the top competitors in the world.
And one of them you're seeing right now, Sven Tippold, little step forward, still a 9-9 for Tippold on that particular event. As to the Americans, and we have just a moment here, let's talk about the Americans as we will take a look at what they did in the vault competition. But one thing I think it's worth mentioning, and that is the fact that the Americans seem to be doing everything right, but the three of us were talking a little bit earlier, and I think it's worthy of note, the fact that they have to do perhaps a little bit more.
Well, I think the U.S. team effort has been very impressive. They've been very solid. The routines look good. They're very clean. As you can see here, Tim Ryan was a little short on that vault, but the U.S. team is trying to compete with the best in terms of doing maximum level difficulty. But one thing that the Soviets and the Chinese and the East Germans do is they blow you away with routines that are just packed with difficulty. And the U.S. team, although it's very clean, isn't doing the routines that are so packed with difficulty that are just going to knock the judges out of their chairs.
Conrad Warsanger, a very good vault. And the average for the United States, 9.53 in the vault. Now, when you start to compare that with what the Soviet Union has been doing, well, the Soviet Union consistently 9.7, 9.75, 9.8 from every one of their competitors. In fact, you might say from every one of their competitors about 10 deep. And there are only, of course, 6 in the competition here. Standings right now, Soviet Union, they're going to win it, no question about that. East Germany is second ahead of China, and then it is Japan, Hungary, and Romania. A lot more to come from the World Championships in Stuttgart, and we'll be back right after this. Prior to the first day of competition, the World Gymnastics athletes were honored, and spectators were treated to colorful opening ceremonies.
It is my pleasure to welcome you to the 25th World Gymnastics Championships 1989.
Rolling in the Parade of Nations were characters from the Broadway musical hit Starlight Express. Over 400 athletes from 48 countries were saluted, all eagerly awaiting their chance in the spotlight. But first, it was a time for native song and dance from our global neighbors. Russian folk singers told a ringing tale of health and prosperity. Elegant Japanese women danced in striking costumes, conveying a culture that is still alive today. And the fire of a Mexican fiesta had the audience clapping along. But it was the involvement of hundreds of West Germans who stole the show. Representing gymnastics clubs throughout the country, the stage slowly came alive with dancers, gymnasts, and those who exercised for the fit of it, until the arena was a swaying panorama of light, color, tumbling, and movement. For the Stuttgart Organizing Committee, this party was the result of over 2 years of planning, and for the audience, a warm feeling of global spirit and the anticipation of events ahead. We are back at the Hans-Martin Schleierhalle, the World Championships of Gymnastics. This is the 5th rotation now, and on parallel bars, the Soviet Union, and the man you're looking at is Valery Belenki.
Boy, this routine is clean. Plenty of underbar work, perfect upper bar work. Looks to him like it's just a casual day on the old parallel bar.
We keep saying that this Soviet is having a great meet, that Soviet's having a great meet, and they're all true. Belenki has a pair of 9.9s. He had a 9.9 in vault, and he had a 9.9 on pommel horse.
And 2 9.7s to go with that. Having a very solid day for him. He only scored a 9.55 in the compulsory, so he did have a little trouble. And of all the compulsory exercises, parallel bars is one of the trickiest routines.
Also of note here, one of the keys to a successful team competition is your first few guys off the bat. They set the pace, they set the base score that the others build on. So often we look at those big 10s and 9.9s at the end, but they play a really important role here.
And the Soviets are very smart in how they do their order, because Belenki is new. He will be a great performer in the future, but he's having to go up early all the time to set the pace for the more established teammates.
And he had a 9.75 in that first routine, so we move now to the high bar, and Enrico Ambros of East Germany.
Oh, and he does a laid out Kovacs. I'm so glad we got to see that. That's a double layout over the bar to a regress. That's the first time it's been done in a world championship. The straddle move is called a stalder. And that's Josef Stalder, famous Swiss gymnast. Here comes his dismount, a laid out double back. Boy, that's a pretty routine.
Excellent.
And how exciting to see that move. Kovacs in the laid out position.
Boy, is he pumped up, and his teammates are equally pumped up. Meanwhile, back to parallel bars, we'll let you know how Kovacs, or Ambros did. Meanwhile, Vitaly Marinic, the Soviet Union, on parallel bars.
Had a little trouble on that move there, had to bend his arms.
Did we tell you Belenki had a 9.75? I don't know if we mentioned that or not, but he did.
Marinic, we saw him this year in the American Cup. He came to the United States and won that competition. Doesn't look too pleased with that routine.
Meanwhile, Enrico Ambros of East Germany, and we still haven't seen a score for him, but look at this again.
Yeah, this is really a great opportunity to see what he does here. He's going to do a double laid-out backflip over the bar. Look at him straining to see the bar to re-grasp it. Bingo. Nothing to it.
9.7 is the score for Ambros.
Almost had a high bar sandwich there, didn't he?
And now it is Jörg Behrens. Behrens also having a good competition here.
The East Germans have a really outrageous high bar routine. The whole team does really incredibly difficult exercises with all the latest, greatest flying tricks. There's one-arm giant sequence. There's a reverse hex with his legs together. Very powerfully done. There's a straddle one right to a blind chain. Two very big release moves because he used so much power and so much speed. The straddle front out of the invert giant swings.
Marty Nitch of the Soviet Union, 9-7 on parallel bars.
And a triple back to finish. 3 huge release moves and a triple back to finish. Now, we mentioned the Americans doing well. Well, the Americans do look very good here, but they're not doing that kind of level of difficulty. Only Lance Ringnold showed 3 release moves of that nature. Here's the triple backflip. Looked like he was in a little close to me. But he's very high. Torques that thing around and finishes about 6 feet in the air. Has time to spot the landing.
And now we wait for his score. Something you mentioned a little while ago, Kathy, too, probably worth mentioning here again, too, that there's kind of a competition within the competition on every one of these teams.
Exactly. We mentioned earlier that only 3 per team can make it to the all-around finals in the top 36. Now, mind you, the Soviets are all in the top 36, if not the top 10, but only 3 of them can go on into the all-around final. And in the individual event finals, only 2 per country can make it. So they're really struggling to try and get into finals.
Jörg Berendt, meanwhile, sits and waits just like you and I. And while we do wait, we will jump off the track for just a moment here. We're at the Hans Martin Schleyer Halle here in Stuttgart. These are the World Gymnastics Championships, and we'll be back with more after this. Welcome back to the Hans Martin Schleyer Halle here in Stuttgart. These, of course, the World Championships of Gymnastics. Igor Korobchinski, we've talked about him on numerous occasions. Here he is on parallel bars.
Once again, very beautiful giant swing. There's the Diamidov, an extra quarter turn to a glide on the side.
9-7 for Jörg Berendt on high bar. We'll speak more of that in a
couple
moment.
steps there in the handstand. From that Stutz, looked like everything was okay, but he overdid it a little bit and had to take 2 steps with his hands, 1/10 of a point reduction for each step.
Talk about the fact we're jumping from event to event here, or discipline to discipline, and here is Silvio Kroll once more.
Well, this is really the best opportunity, although we're going all over the gym. It's the best opportunity to see these outrageous routines because, as you mentioned, there are 6 events going on at once, and in every case, there are some really outrageous elements being done. This is Silvio Kroll, of course, does an outrageous high bar routine, has been very well known for not only the great routines, but some seriously great crashes. This guy is all over the gym with his exercise. Look at that. 1.5 twisting double front for a dismount. Boy, that was a big routine.
Gotta like that, but just to speak for just a moment, we saw Enrico Ambros of East Germany and Jörg Berendt of East Germany, both of whom seemed to really stick their routine, and they both wound up with 9-7s.
That sounds like a low score. They were a little sloppy, though. That's the thing about the East Germans. They do a lot of big tricks, but they tend to be a little sloppier than the very clean Soviets. Notice a little form break here and there, and a little hop on the landing for Silvio Kroll.
So Silvio Kroll now will play the waiting game. And meanwhile, we go to the vault. And in the vault competition, it is German of Romania. Marius German. It's a good event for him, is it not?
Yes, in fact, German did a terrific job in the competition in the compulsories. He's in 14th place. 9-8 was his best score, and that was here in the vault competition. This is the optional round, so he can do whatever vault he chooses. Wow! There's a laid-out, full-twisting Kasamatsu with perfect form, and he lands standing straight up and down. That's going to score very well.
Well, while we wait for his score, we'll tell you Silvio Kroll on the high bar, 9-8.
Let's see what he does here on this vault. He has good speed. He's going to do what they call a round off onto the horse and then push like crazy. That horse is spring-loaded, by the way, so you get a little more air time. Crank a couple of twists, and he lands in excellent position. That's one of the more difficult vaults being done right now. The judges are looking for terrific height, good distance from the horse, and, of course, very clean form in the air.
9-9 the score for Marius German of Romania. Excellent. We're looking at an overall view of a virtual sell-out here at Hans Martin Schleyer Halle. On the parallel bars, it is Vladimir Artemov. Artemov. I'm going to get that name right before this competition is over, I promise. So the leader of the pack amongst the Soviets. The boy's got a lot of competition on his own team today.
Well, if he's going to pick up any ground on his teammates, it's probably going to be on this event. He is former world champion on this event, and really truly a master of the parallel bars. Does all of the elements well. There's an underbar skill. Peach hand and then a drop peach with a half. Notice the perfect form, and the best thing is the rhythm. Watch how he just sets up every element. It's every position right on top. Squeezes all the positions out. Back toss, right to the top. There's the pike double.
How good?
Incredibly good. I think we were looking at a 10, but he did take a little bobble on the landing. And I don't know if they'll give him the perfect score, but there's no reason he shouldn't deserve it other than that little teeny step on the landing with the pike double back. Look at the height on those back tosses. He's up there, and he just floats it down, catches him perfectly on top in a handstand position. There's a pike double. He's just a little short of rotation, has to bend his knees a hair there. And, of course, that one step will be a 10th of a point.
9-9, the score for Artemov. And you heard Kathy Johnson talk a few moments ago about the competition just amongst each team, and particularly so amongst the Soviets. Listen to these scores. There are 6 competitors here amongst the men from the Soviet Union. Only 3 will go to the all-around competition. Listen to these scores. Korobchinsky, 108. Artemov, 107.8. Valentin Mogilny, 107.6. Varanich, 107.3. Belenki, 106.95. It is that close and still up for grabs. Only 3 go on to the all-around. We'll go on to this. This is Wang Chongsheng, who earlier, check that, Li Chongyang, China, on floor exercise. Wang Chongsheng earlier hurt an elbow, as you saw.
Li Chongyang opened with a full twisting double layout. Keep in mind that the judges are looking for the gymnast to cover the complete floor area, which is 20 feet, 40 feet by 40 feet. They're looking for 3 different acrobatic connections or tumbling passes. They're looking for a strength part of at least B value or mid-range value, and 1 static element. As you'll see, he performs right here. This is a scale. The judges need to see a static element on either 1 foot or 1 hand. And most of the gymnasts do that right before the last tumbling pass so they can catch their breath and set up the last run, which is a laid-out double back, and he sticks it.
So an excellent routine for Li Chongyang, but remember the Chinese now, because of the injury to Wang Chongsheng, have to count the other 5 scores, and amongst those other 5 scores, Li Ge had a 9.0 or 9, and that probably is not going to hold up for the East Germans, with whom they are fighting for 2nd place.
This is the opening tumbling run. He does a layout, full in the middle. Notice the terrific form, and he lands perfectly straight up and down. The last tumbling run was the laid-out double back, which the only one we've seen other in this competition to do a layout double back for a dismount was Korobchinsky, and he's currently laying the all-around.
So we head now for the 6th and final rotation here at the Hans-Martin Schleierhalle in Stuttgart, Germany, city of 600,000 people, rich in history. And on videotape now, we will go back and take a look at a floor exercise of Ma Zheng.
The Chinese are very powerful tumblers. Remember Tong Fei and Li Ning in the '84 Olympic Games? Li Ning now retired from gymnastics, as is Tong Fei. In fact, Tong Fei, now the assistant coach at Stanford, and coaching a couple of the Americans that are competing here, Tim Ryan and Conrad Borsing at Stanford University. This exercise was very clean. The form the third tumbling run a side somersault. Most of the gymnasts use that third tumbling run to sort of take a minute to catch their breath, because the judges really need to see powerful opening and powerful closing tumbling runs. And although it would be nice to see the gymnasts do more on that third tumbling run, many of them are using it as an opportunity to rest up so they can finish with a big move like that, the full twisting double back. Strong routine.
Excellent routine for him. And as we mentioned, that was worth a 9-7. And the problem there, of course, for the Chinese is that Li Ge had a 9, and that cost them. A little bit earlier, also on videotape from the Soviet Union, Vladimir Novikov on parallel bars.
He opened on the end with a peak. This is a very quick exercise. Front 1 1/4. I like the style here because he's moving very quickly from one element to the next. He doesn't quite have the elegant rhythm that you see from an Artyomov, but he just rips off one trick after the next and nails the landing on that pike double back.
You know, the thing that's impressive to me, Kathy and Bart, and of course I haven't been around this sport nearly as much as you, but 9-7 was the lowest score by the Soviet team on parallel bars. That's pretty darn good.
As you mentioned, Kathy, that's where the Soviets will beat you. Their top 3 gymnasts are, no question, competing for the top 3 spots in any world competition, but so are their bottom 3 guys, and that team depth is what allows them to stand above many of the teams here.
Vladimir Novikov, a 9-8 for the Soviet Union, so they just continue their mastery, and they continue to just dominate these world championships in team competition. Preparations going on now for the 6th and final rotation. The Japanese will be on the pommel horse, and as we have done throughout this broadcast, let us tell you a little bit about what the United States did in competition held earlier today on pommel horse.
Michael Racanelli was doing very well, had a minor form break there, but he really worked aggressively through his routine. These are flares, and you'll notice he's traveling across the horse without using the pommels, which of course will gain him extra difficulty points. And he went up to handstand right there, back down into the middle for a score of a 9.5. Patrick Kirksey was doing very well, and notice right here as he starts to do his scissor, his right hand slips a little bit, and he breaks the rhythm of the exercise, and of course that's a major break. And that cost him at least 3 to 5 tenths of a point, only a 9.2 for Patrick Kirksey on that event. And then Kevin Davis finally put together a really strong routine. Kevin has always been good on the pommel horse. But you can see here he travels across the horse, and here is his best combination. From these flares, he's going to travel across the horse while he hops in the opposite direction in what they call a spindle. Continue through the exercise with excellent single leg work. And his dismount here, he works his way to the end through a handstand and pirouettes off. That routine scored a 9.6, the best effort for the U.S. on the pommel horse.
Did you notice little golden arches, commercialism coming to your sport, the gymnastics?
Yeah, and the Soviets were the ones to start it. They're wearing a logo that says Sofi now, which is the insurance company that covers and insures the Soviet gymnastics.
No truth, though, they wanted to change the name to the McPommel, right? The Soviet Union continues to lead the team competition here. East Germany doing very well in second place ahead of China. Got a lot more to come. We'll be back.
Olympian Brandy Johnson leads a determined team of gymnasts in the most important international competition of the year. See the compulsories of the World Gymnastics Championships Wednesday night on ESPN.
South of Stuttgart, Munich, West Germany, plays host to a world-famous tradition in Bavaria, Oktoberfest. The festival atmosphere of this fall celebration has one small catch. If you come to Munich in October, too late. Oktoberfest is observed in September. Ma Zheng of China now on the pommel horse.
Once again, the flared circles are very popular, and many of the top gymnasts are using this combination that we saw Kevin Davis use. Spindling flares across the horse without touching the pommels. He works his way back. Good form. routine seems a little choppy to me, though. He doesn't have the rhythm that you see from many of the top Soviets and some of the top Hungarians who have set the standard for pommel horse worldwide for many years, beginning with Zoltan Magyar.
Earlier we saw Mogilny of the Soviet Union get a 10 in this same event, and while Ma Zheng is very happy, I think perhaps you could see the difference in the two.
He has good elevation. Form is good. This is certainly the best part of his exercise here. The flared position as he's turning his upper body in the opposite direction that his lower body is traveling. And look at the tremendous elevation above the horse. Here's a good opportunity to see what happens as he works his way back across the horse. Twisting his upper body in the opposite direction of his lower body.
9-6-5, the score from Ma Zheng. Chinese team, of course, chasing the East Germans. And it's a bit of a ways back, and the Chinese can really not afford a mistake. Looking for a close-up view. Better keep her hand there. Her chin may drop.
Really has been a great competition. We've seen so much great gymnastics. Keep in mind there are 6 teams all competing all at once, so you're flying around the gym, seeing one wild routine after the next. It's very, very difficult to follow.
It is. It's difficult to keep up with, and yet I think everybody at home, along with us here, is just seeing some spectacular gymnastics.
Well, you know, the gymnasts consider the World Championships and the Olympics as the major events, and so all the gymnasts are in the best possible shape, and they're showing their finest routines here.
Valentin Mogilny on high bar now, the Soviet Union. He had a 10 earlier on pommel horse.
One-arm giant swing to a ginger. Notice his rhythm. The exercise is smooth. He squeezes complete extension out of every element. There's a reverse heck.
He really stylizes every movement that he does.
He did that full pirouette right into the inverted giant swing, showing tremendous flexibility in his upper body and his shoulders. His dismount, a laid out, full out. Oh, he sits down. Now this has been a problem for Mogilny. As we mentioned earlier, he is such an outrageous gymnast, but he has had problems in major meets. And it certainly showed up there on a dismount. Everything was going beautifully, lay out, full out, and he pulls it a little bit too far through. Obviously a break in concentration, and that's one of the reasons that he hasn't been selected to compete on the Olympic team for the Soviet Union last year.
Well, what a shame that was. Meanwhile, Li Ge on pommel horse for China.
Beautiful flares traveling back across the horse. The judges need to see at least one element on one pommel. They love to see the handstands because those are very impressive to the judges. In fact, one of the first guys in the world to do a handstand was one of the Soviets, Korolev, in the '81 World Championships, used it in his optional exercise. And many of the coaches and judges were feeling that perhaps the handstand was not the direction to go on the pommel horse, but now that the gymnasts do it without breaking any rhythm in the exercise, it's a natural element on the pommel horse. You can see here as he torques up to a handstand, there's no break in rhythm. Very cleanly done and very impressive discipline.
Well, the Soviet Union continues to dominate here in Stuttgart. A lot more to come. We'll be back right after this. Well, we will move back to the high bar and Vitaly Marinich of the Soviet Union. Mogilny a 9-5. And remember, Mogilny is in the thick of a battle just to be one of the top 3. It appears he will be because he's had a very good competition.
He was in 3rd position, though, only 0.3 of a point ahead of Marinich. So he's kind of opened the door slightly, but has opened the door for Marinich to maybe move into that coveted 3rd spot for the Soviets.
Marinich builds his routine around a couple of really outrageous release moves. Here comes the first. Straddled, Gaylord to a perfect regrasp. Now here comes the second. A reverse hex front, and once again catches it, but you can see he has a little bit of a break in the rhythm as he catches that skill in a routine that's designed around a couple of very big release moves. Not necessarily the complete routine that you see from a Mogilny, but just stocked with difficulties in a full twisting double layout.
And again, this perhaps emphasizes the point you were making about what the Americans need to do, maybe more graphically than anything else.
Well, as you can see here, he just takes advantage of this opportunity to show the world that he can do everything. He does the Gaylord in the straddle position. This is the reverse heck to a front. Now, keep in mind that he's going to take a little bit of a break in the rhythm here. He has to continue through the exercise, but he's not going to be comfortable competing with just a mediocre level of difficulty. He's challenging the top level of difficulty being used by any gymnast, and that's certainly for the U.S. team and for what the U.S. gymnasts are competing now. They look very good here and well-conditioned and in good shape and reasonably consistent, but there are very few teams, including the Americans, that can compete with the kind of level of difficulty that the Soviets are showing here.
Is he just naturally going to be scored higher just because of the difficulty of his routine?
Well, certainly difficulty is the most obvious way of getting the judge's attention by throwing a big trick, and if you can do it with clean form, the scores will be there because the Soviets have everything else. They have the technique, they have the form, so you pack a couple of big tricks in there and the scores are going to be.
Someone we've seen on a couple of occasions so far tonight, Andreas Becker of East Germany in floor exercise.
Becker opened with a nice full twisting double and a handspring front layout. Those are the flares. We saw him on the pommel horse. A lot of the gymnasts are using now on the floor. They do the flares up to a handstand, a pirouetting handstand. Becker was first on the high bar in the European Championships this year in Sweden. It's a clean tumbling run. It's a whip back through to a double twist. Now this isn't the level of difficulty that you're seeing from the Kordachevskis or the Novikovs or even the Artyemovs. But his exercise has a good clean look to it. Tuck double back, one step on the landing. It'll be interesting to see what that routine scores because although it was very clean, it was very stock, and at this level of competition, the difficulty level was very mediocre.
9.65 for Marinic on the high bar. A moment ago we were watching him, and now we watch Vladimir Artyomov on high bar.
One of his gold medals in the Olympics in Seoul, of course, was here on the high bar. The one-arm giant swing. To a Tkachev, to a Ginger, every time. The same position. Very difficult combination, and it looks so easy because the technique is so good. Once again, just notice how he takes his time in the giant. Good rhythm, good clean form, and very pretty position in the air on that layout double. That's the exact same routine that he used a year ago in the Seoul Olympics.
Vladimir Artyomov of the Soviet Union, another look.
Here's the release combination. One arm, reverse hecht over the top, to a Ginger, which is a back flip with a half twist. He catches in perfect position.
You make that one-arm giant swing just look so easy.
And one of the first one-arm giants that was done was back in 1979, 10 years ago, by Tkachev, who invented, of course, the Tkachev on the high bar. There was an American, Mark Davis, who did it about 20 years ago, but it didn't look quite like that.
All right, when we come back, we'll let you know how Vladimir Artyomov did on high bar. A lot more to come from Stuttgart. Toshiharu Sato of Japan on the rings. Artyomov on high bar, 9.85 before we went away to break. Perfectly consistent event for him. 9.85 on high bar, 9.9 on parallel bars, 9.85 on vault, 9.9 on pommel horse. Excellent event.
Sato opened his ring routine with a kip to an L cross. It's a D move. The judges are looking for moves that are of A, B, C, and D categories, the D being the most difficult. And that combination there was tough to hold that handstand after doing those two Yamawakis through to a back uprise to handstand without letting the ring swing. It's a very difficult combination. Nice dismount, a full twisting double layout, and just a little short.
Toshihiro Sato of Japan to bring you up to date. Andreas Becker, we saw him in floor exercise from East Germany just a moment ago. 9-7 was his score. 9-8-5, as we already mentioned, for Vladimir Artyomov on high bar from the Soviet Union. Again, the dismount of Sato.
This is a double layout. There's a giant over the top to pick up some speed. There's a double layout, and then he twists the second flip. It's called a double layout full out.
Japanese very quietly having a good competition here. Top 5.
Their scores on the ring, they had a 9.75, a couple of 9.5s, a 9.6, a 9.7. They're not going to challenge the Soviets with scores like that, but they are very, very consistent scores.
And creeping up on China, 9-8 the score for Toshihiro Sato. Silvio Kroll is the last competitor here on this evening of team competition. He is set to go now in floor exercise for East Germany, and East Germany having already, barring the totally unforeseen, nailed down the number 2 position ahead of China, and Japan, Hungary, Romania, and Italy ahead of the United States and Bulgaria, finishing in a tie for 8.
Kroll opened with a full-in pike, perfect form. He, of course, was one of the consistent members of the silver medal winning team, the East Germans in Seoul. The world champion on the vault. Flip-flop whip, flip-flop pull, punch front. Well, that's strange. He had a little bit of a bobble there.
And it wasn't that difficult of a full pass.
Not for him. It looked like he was a little bit off when he went through the whip back. He changed his mind in the mid-section of that pass. Here's his dismount, tuck double back. Very clean dismount. I'm sure that'll score well, although he did have a little trouble in that third tumbling run. It looked like he was sort of unsure of himself.
So Silvio Kroll, who is the last man to perform live here in the team competition tonight, finishes his evening's work. And a lot of support here in the stands from just about every country, as a matter of fact. In fact, the American fans have been rather quiet today. Of all the fans here in the stadium, that contingent may be
The Swiss fans, they're the wild.
They are great.
The cowbells.
They got it all. Another look at Silvio Kroll.
This is his dismount, tuck double back, tremendous reach. Very good position in the air. Good finish for Silvio Kroll. His scores today, he had a 9-9 on the vault, 3-9-8, high bar, parallel bars, and still rings a 9-4, his lowest score on pommel work.
But still good enough to get him into the all-around, along with his teammates Andreas Becker and Sven Tippelt. And as he mentioned, the Soviet Union runaway champions here once again. They won it in most convincing fashion. East Germany, very good event for them here to finish second. 9-7 was the score for Silvio Kroll. So the Soviet Union wins it. East Germany is second ahead of China, Japan, Hungary, Romania, Italy finishing in 7th place. Good event for them too. And then a tie between the United States and Bulgaria. Back to wrap things up from here in Stuttgart after this. The award ceremony is going on now at Hans-Martin Schleyer Halle here in Stuttgart, and the recipients of the gold medal, no surprise here, the Soviet Union. They win it easily. East Germany finishes in 2nd place ahead of China, with Japan, Hungary, Romania, and a pretty good showing by the Italians, who finished in 7th place ahead of the United States and Bulgaria, who finished in a tie for 8th. But the Russians, I don't know what you could say about them, Bart. They continue to be dominant, and they continue to be extremely dominant, not just winning, but winning easily.
Oh, yeah, and with a win of 6.4 in the team competition, that's about like a 6-touchdown win in any football game. It's huge, and it's interesting to see the Soviets, though. They're always challenging for the higher level of difficulty, so even though they're such a dominant team, they're pushing the boundaries of the sport of gymnastics, and it's exciting to watch them. Although I have to admit, I think they were a little flat today because they weren't pressed in the team competition, so they weren't sticking landings, and their form was a little weaker than you usually see.
Kathy, you've been watching that battle for 2nd place between East Germany and China. Do you see a sign of the future with these two teams?
Well, as I thought it would be. It was a very interesting competition. East Germany rose to the occasion in spite of not having two of their best gymnasts, and the Chinese, having lost Wang Chongqing to injury on the high bar, fought to hang on to third over the Japanese, who have to be disappointed since they won the bronze in Seoul.
That's the story then in the men's competition. The Soviet Union continuing to show itself the best in the world in this most rigorous of all sports. The United States, though, up from the Olympic Games. They finished 11th there. They finished this time in a tie for 8th. Well, the men's team final of the 25th World Gymnastics Championships has come to a close here in Stuttgart with a dominant Soviet Union team emerging with a gold medal. Highlighting tonight's events was a perfect 10 on pommel horse by the Soviet Valentin Mogilny. That was the only 10 scored in tonight's finals. For the American team, 23-year-old Kevin Davis gave this strong performance on parallel bars, good enough to earn him a 9-7. The United States, though, finished in a tie for 8th with Bulgaria. Our congratulations to the athletes who come from over 48 nations to compete here in Stuttgart, West Germany, and our thanks to you for joining us on this exciting and very special night of gymnastics. So for Bart Connor and Kathy Johnson, I'm Barry Tompkins. So long from Stuttgart.
The 1989 World Gymnastics Championships are being brought to you by Bud Light. Everything else is just a light. By Domino's Pizza Incorporated. Hot, delicious pizza. Domino's Pizza. Nobody delivers better. And by Microage. Computer systems for your business.